Well, good morning, people, and good morning, Mo. How lovely to be with you again. This is our regular slot on BBC Mo, and here we are to consider our images. Thank you for considering those and submitting them. I've deliberately given you quite a challenge, I know, but there again, you had weather, no you didn't, you had rain and it didn't rain, you had fog and there was no fog. So light and shadows. As light is your paper, so shadows are your paintbrush. And you have certainly addressed that challenge very, very well indeed. So I'm impressed with those, and we'll go straight in to the first image, which belongs to Bill. And thankfully Bill came along with us on the visits to the church, and he has spotted this rather splendid shadow of the tree, the yew tree, on the wall of the church, the lighting giving a three-dimensionality to the image, and that gives us certainly the idea of light being the paper and shadows being the paintbrush. So, what have we got here? We've got a well-composed photograph, sharp where it needs to be sharp, with some cloud in the sky, not those horrible blue skies that you get in Barbados or Bermuda or wherever else it is that Brenda went to. And we have a good rendition of the detail in the shadow. It's all too easy to overexpose this type of image and lose the detail in the sky in order only to keep the detail in the shadow. Alternatively, to lose the detail in the shadow and not quite see anything else. Anyway, let's have a look at this image again. Is there anything on the third? Yes, there is. There's some sort of tomb on the right-hand side. I like that. There's a gravestone on the left, which acts as a bookmark. That keeps us in very, very adequately, and I'm quite pleased with that as an image. So well done, Bill. Now I have to discover how to move on to the next one. There we are. Bill number 2, again, Bill has seen that the light coming in through the church window has given us what is called a contre-jour, a backlight on this vase of flowers. Unfortunately, it's so diffused through that opaque window that there isn't much shadow as such. So it certainly ticks the box of the light being the background, the paper, but we've missed a little bit of the shadow. There's not a lot of three-dimensionality. So pleasantly exposed photograph. It would be ideal lighting with these opaque windows to one side, ideal lighting for portraiture. However, the shadow side of this particular image leaves a little bit wanting. Nonetheless, it's sharp, it's properly exposed as it is, and the uprights are upright, so well done on that. Bill number 3, now he's taken the bull by the horns. He's got that wonderful light coming in through the Stanley Army windows there and casting shadows straight towards us. That's a real dynamic photo. I like that a lot. Now, having said it's light is your paper and shadows are your paintbrush, those shadows are giving us a three-dimensionality to this image, which is wonderful. I love the shadows on the seats of the chairs. I like the shadows on the floor, the ground, the mat, whatever it is. So that's very good. However, what's the photo about? You know, just getting light and shadow doesn't make a complete photo. You've got to have a subject. So if we look at the thirds, the intersection of the thirds, what do we see? Well, nothing very much. We've got a banner, but we've got a whole lot more banners as well. We've got a chair, but there's a whole lot more chairs as well. So one mustn't forget the overall task of having a subject in the photo. which is exemplified and exaggerated and given dynamism by the shadows and the lighting. Nonetheless, it's a good try, and I think it's probably the best of your three, Bill, so well done on that. So we have this rather lovely photo from Diana number 1, which is showing Iris. It almost looks as if it's in a mirror, or is it through a hole, a window, some sort of gap in the wall in a church? Is it with a lantern in the way, illuminating Iris in the background? What a lovely photo. I like this one a lot. Look at the way that the subject, which has to be Iris's portrait, is on the third. Look at the way that the lantern in the front right-hand side is illuminating Iris, and the way that the leading line from the bottom left-hand corner is bringing us into that aperture in the wall there, through which we're looking at Iris. I think that's a very, very well seen and well taken photo. Now, you have two options here. You could perhaps have used your photo manipulation jiggery pokery software and made sure that the vertical side of the aperture, the window, is actually vertical, and as it is, it's leaning slightly to the left. Or you could have made the top of the aperture horizontal, in which case the vertical wouldn't be right. Nonetheless, you've got to choose one of them or the other and get it right. Either the horizontal and make it horizontal, or the vertical and make it vertical. But apart from that, I think that's a cracking good photo and is very well seen and very well taken. I like that a lot, and yes, well done on that. Diana number 2, and here's some wonderful shadows and some really delicious light coming through these windows, hitting the pillars in this church and giving us shafts of light of different colours, different colour temperatures. So what a wonderful photo that is. That's great. I very much like the way that's been seen. It's exposed beautifully, so we haven't lost any detail in the windows themselves. Diana has retained the detail in the shadows, and on that furthest, that last pillar, we have those lovely streaks of coloured light. It's a delicious photo. I like that a lot. In a sense, there is a real sense of recession, that we are led into the photo from the right to the left, and we're taken in. It's intriguing. I like that a lot. How could we improve it? Could we have had, for instance, one lonely rose somewhere at the end of the shelf, as it were, or an object, something, even a Coke can, perhaps not a Coke can in this setting, but nonetheless something, because this photo is begging for a subject. It's very well seen, it's very well taken, and it just wants a point of interest, a point of focus somewhere there. Perhaps you could have found a monk or a priest or a pixie or a gnome or something just to put in there. But they are in short supply. I do appreciate that, so well done. I like that image a lot. Diana 3. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look how skillfully this has been done. It's square format. Well done, Diana. Terrific. I like that a lot. We've got a leading line of these, what do you call them, pew ends, the ends of the pews, taking us into these purple carpets, these purple mats, and taking us up to the altar with the religious symbolism there parked on top of the altar. Very, very well taken, very well exposed. we've retained, Diana has retained the detail in the woodwork. It's not easy, because that was really quite dark. Looking at the flower vase, there's a particularly good photo just begging to be taken of those flowers being lit by the opaque windows off to the right-hand side and casting this really, really good shadow on the wall behind. I like that a lot. The whole thing holds together beautifully. Some judges would be tempted to criticize the candlestick on the right-hand side being cut off halfway. And if you had the photo jiggery-pokery manipulation software, you might be able to take that whole candlestick out. Nonetheless, it's very good. Now, speaking of photo manipulation jiggery-pokery, if you have it, there's a reddish cloth of some description up in the top right-hand corner, which is distracting my eye, and perhaps you could just tone that down. But I would hope that everyone has noticed this wonderful stroke that you've put in there. It's not red, please tell Mo. It's not bright white, well done. It's mid-grey, light grey. I like that a lot. That's made that photo. That's a really good one. Well done. Jeff 1. Well, it's breakfast time for Jeff. He's got his coffee and his eggs and his spoon. I don't see any toast or soldiers, but nonetheless. And he's got a flower in a firing glass. Well, you could use firing glasses for flowers, but that's not what they're intended for. But there we go, Jeff. Each to his own. And Jeff has noticed that he's getting shadows. And I want you to look, ladies and gentlemen, at the eggs, particularly at the eggs. Look at how round they are. And that roundness is donated by the light coming in from our left as we look at the photo and giving us that three-dimensionality on the eggs. So that is very well done indeed. I like that. And that leads me on to next month's challenge. But I'll tell you about that later. Well, here we go. What could we do to ask Jeff to improve? Well, look at the wallpaper at the back. That's dead sharp. And ideally, that should not be sharp. Ideally, the whole of the breakfast table could have been brought about 2 or 3 feet away from the wall, allowing just the egg, the coffee, and the flowers to be dead sharp, and the background to be soft. Now, the wider the aperture, wide aperture, big hole, small number, will throw the background into softness. So a fairly easy improvement in that case, but it's certainly getting there. Everything that should be sharp is, although the background should be soft, and it isn't. Nonetheless, the shadows give us three-dimensionality, not only on the eggs, but the cup. Look at the roundness of that cup. Look at the way the light has come in. It's just kissing the cup and throwing the right-hand side of the cup into shadow. So it looks as if it is round, and it certainly is. That's quite a skill. Well done, Jeff. Good man. Keep it up. Jeff number 2. Now, we're looking through some railings that are preventing us from falling in the sea. And the sea is quite choppy, and certainly the light glinting on the chop is giving us the idea of three-dimensionality. I'm not sure that these bars do anything except stop me from looking through to the sea. And once again, there's no actual point of focus. It's a background. So whilst it is pretty well exposed, and it's quite a challenge to get that well exposed in this case, because of the fact that you have these specular highlights in the sea, the fact remains that most of those have retained their detail. So well done on that, Jeff. And yet the bars aren't doing a lot for me. and there's an absence of a point of interest. We need a floating boat, or a seagull, or a swimmer, or throw Joan in and let her do the doggy paddle in or something there, and just get some point of interest. I hope you fish Joan back out again afterwards. I know you will. I know you will. Good man, Jeff. Jeff 3, here we have the garden. I believe we've seen the garden before. And what Jeff has seen here is that the shadow of the house is cast across the lawn, giving us deep shadow with residual frost, and yet the sunlight is very strong and it's burned away the frost on the rest of the lawn. That's well seen. However, here we have an example of quite a difficult situation where very bright sunlight is illuminating the statue and the what do you call that woodwork in the background there, and the trees, and the exposure for that is one setting, whereas the deep shadow with in the foreground here with the frost on the grass would be quite a different exposure setting. Now that's quite a challenge. That's quite difficult because they are quite different exposures, and Jeff has pretty well managed to keep all of the detail in the shadow, but unfortunately the statue is burned out. She's overexposed. So quite a challenge, and it is the challenge of a wedding photographer. You know, if I shoot a wedding and I've got a bride in a bright white dress and a groom in a dark suit, a black suit, the contrast difference is so huge that it's really difficult to expose it correctly. So well seen and well taken, but you'll understand that that's quite a difficult one to get right, Jeff, and you've done well at attempting it. Thank you. Iris number 1, the traditional number 3, seagulls. Lovely. Now, I have been told by ornithologists there's no such thing as a seagull. I've been told off for saying seagulls. It's either one type of gull or it's another type of gull, and it's never a seagull. Well, to you and I, perhaps a seagull is a seagull is a seagull, and they differ in size and viciousness, but there we go. And Iris has managed to get 3 of them into the frame. Well done. Not only that, but we've got this very strong composition diagonally across the screen. Very good indeed. I like that. That is well done, well seen, and well taken. Had it been anything but a plain blue sky, I'd have been enthralled to have a few fluffy clouds, just soft, but we haven't all got a line to the weather gods, so that's well taken. And what rescues it is this delicious white stroke inside the blue frame. Now you might say it's actually a white stroke outside the frame and then a darker blue outside that. Well, either which way, it does it well, and it makes that image stand out. What about the shadows? I can see where the light is. It's strongly from my left, and it's just kissing the wings of the gulls, leaving shadow underneath the wings, and that's really well done. Iris has retained the detail in the shadow of those feathers. It's strongly composed and beautifully exposed. I like that a lot. Ask yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, if you were shooting that, what would be your settings on your camera? Don't say automatic. What would be your shutter setting? What would be your aperture setting? What would be your ISO? Well, I know you know the answers, and Iris has thought of those before she's taken these images. So that's well done. Well done, Iris. Iris number 2, this very well seen portrait of this young man looking at his mobile phone. The light from our right is giving us a 3-dimensionality to his head. Unfortunately, he's not sharp. There's another problem here, which actually Iris has very nearly overcome. And if you look at the size of the gentleman's hand and compare it with the size of his head, you'll see that he either has a very small head or very big hands. Now, you can overcome this problem, and it comes from the fact that the hand was probably 2 feet away from the lens, and the head was probably 3 feet away from the lens. And so the angle subtended is smaller for the head, and therefore it looks smaller. You can overcome that by using a long lens and standing on the other side of the room. However, in this case, we have a well-composed photo with the light coming from the right and giving us a 3-dimensionality on the head of the man. Unfortunately, we have 2 problems. Number 1 is that the light is giving us a very, we call it a hot spot, that bright white spot on his forehead, and that's a problem. And number 2 is that it's really not sharp. Now, it looks a bit strange in the hairline at the back, but I will forgive that on this occasion. And the light has been usefully used to give us shadows and for us to understand the 3-dimensionality of the man's face. So that's good lighting, it's well seen, and could be improved. So homework, do it again, get him sharp, stand on the other side of the room, use a long focal length lens, and try not to get hot spots on the man's forehead. If you have the photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software, it is possible to overcome that hotspot. But even shooting in RAW, and I'm sure you are shooting in RAW, it's not very easy to get rid of it. But it can be done. So well done with that one. Well seen. Iris 3. Iris is thinking, now what's this task? What's the task here? It's light is the paper. So she's got the light coming through these windows. They're not exactly stained glass windows, but there is some texture in those windows. But the other half of the challenge is shadow. And we haven't got very strong shadow. We've got diffuse light falling on the church wall. So there's not a lot of what we call contrast range. So we're lacking something here. But nonetheless, if we had a Coke can, a Bible, something in the frame as a point of interest, lit by the light coming through the window, perhaps we could have made more of a photo of it. Nonetheless, it's a well exposed, properly seen record photo, and homework, find something to put in there as a point of interest, whether it's your average priest that might be walking by, or a Bible, or a tulip, or a daffodil, or a primrose, I don't know. Whatever's available, do a bit of gardening. But well seen, thank you for that. Mo number 1. Well, we're back on the chess pieces, and what a superb contrast range. Look at that. We've got pitch black. We've got contre-jour, the light's coming straight at us. The light is at a low level and the lens is at a low level. So that's great. He's either raised up that chess set onto a tabletop and put his camera down on the tripod, roughly level with the king and the queen and the bishop in this set of chess pieces, or done it on the floor. Either which way, the lens and the pieces are well arranged. The light's coming through some very, very well opaque background source, beautifully seen, and bouncing off the lower rims of these pieces, giving us a really good silhouette. I like that a lot. However, there's a spot that's irritating me. In fact, there are 2. One in the top and one in the extreme left. And if he has the necessary photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software, perhaps he could have taken those out. I love the softness of the light coming through. I like the deliciousness of the silhouette form. How could that be improved? Have we any detail at all in the king, the queen, and the bishop? Well, I can't see any. So perhaps one of those reflector sheets I gave everyone, or even a piece of newspaper, just to bring a little detail into those chess pieces would have helped. But I think that's a cracking good photo. It's very imaginative. Can I find anything else? Oh, yes. He's put a stroke on it. And it's not red. Brilliant. Well done. Well done, Mo. Mo 2. Well, look, he's really trying to catch me out with this one. This is judge bait, isn't it? This really is. So what did David say? David said light and shadow. So here we have a wall, a coffin wall, or a church wall, or maybe on the top of the church, and he's seen all of this this growth, whatever it's called, and he's seen the way that the light is obliquely kissing that, what's it called? I've forgotten the word for it, that grows on these stone walls. And it's giving us a depth. It's giving us a three-dimensionality. And that's great. I like it. I like it a lot. However, where does Mo want me to look? Am I to look at the right-hand third? Is that the place he wants me to go? Or am I to look at the left-hand third, which is somehow deeper in this growth? I don't know. So it lacks a point of focus. Now, speaking of photo manipulation, jiggery pokery, look at the sky in the background, if you will, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't seem to get the internet working. Check back in just a sec.
And in this sky, we have this interesting effect, which, if you know, the camera never lies. So it was really there, allegedly. And there's some funny colours in the sky there. There's a delicious range of purple, blue, white. The only bit that's missing is red. Maybe there's actually some green in it as well, and some yellow I've seen. So yes, an interesting artifact, probably an artifact, but maybe not. Maybe it's something that Mo's put in just to act as judge bait to see if I'd notice. Well, what I have noticed are these strokes. Now, who on earth in their right mind would put a half-inch semi-transparent stroke around the image and then another half-inch bright white stroke around that? Well, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. What does it do for the image? Is he trying to say to me, looking through a hole? Am I looking through a viewfinder? I don't know. It's not working for me. But I do like the way that the light is oblique to the growth there on the top of the rock, and the strength of depth there. So well done, well tried, but you didn't get it past me. Mo 3. Light is your paper, and it certainly is coming in here through those patterns on the glass, giving us this rather wonderful shadow and light on the wall at the left. Now, some people might say that this is two photos. One, which is the left-hand photo, just of the light coming through. And I think I can understand that point of view. Another photo, that of the window with these rather fine engravings and the starburst in the centre of it. And I'd agree with that too. But it's better as it is, because I'm seeing where this light is coming from. I'm seeing would you call it a shadow? It is a shadow, isn't it, with these patterns on the wall. That's really well seen. And because the wall is perhaps a shade of a light colour, maybe a cream colour, it's bouncing light back to the window frame or the door frame and we're seeing some detail in that. So that's very well seen indeed. I do like it. What's the point? What's the point of focus? What's the photo of? Is it a photo of the window, those wonderful engravings, or is it a photo of the light hitting the wall? With either which way, I think it works, and it's given me a point of focus, a point of interest. Now, when I look at the window, I'm seeing the reflection of some lights in the center diamond of the window, which I think with a little bit of photo manipulation, jiggery-pokery software, might benefit by being removed. You'll notice on this one the absence of any stroke at all, and I think it still works without a stroke, but particularly for DPI, if Mo was to choose to put it into a DPI competition, it's useful to frame the picture in an off-white, a grey, 2 or 3 pixel line around the whole thing. But it works very well indeed. I like that. That's good. Put it on, Mo. Suzanne 1. And here we have an image, a shadow, a silhouette. It's not really a silhouette, is it? Of a photographer. I guess it's Suzanne herself, leaning on a fence with the sun behind her, and where it's passing her, it's then hitting the grass or the weeds or the lawn or whatever it is. So that's very well seen. Not only that, but you'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, the light is not entirely absent from the silhouette itself. There is detail in the shadow. So I like that. That's very well seen. The subject, the point of focus, the point of interest, is the silhouette of the lady here on the grass. So and that is positioned on the third. The fence, the shadow of the fence, is giving me a nice structure to the photo, so I know what's going on. It's telling me a story, and I get back to my SIL. Is it telling me a story? Yes, it is. This lady is leaning on a fence. Is it intriguing? Yes, I want to know what she's doing. I guess she's taking a photo. Does it make me laugh? Well, it certainly made me smile, because I think that's a goodie. Now, will you look very closely with me at the shadow of the lady herself? And if you look at it, you'll see an optical illusion, which is real. It's not an artifact of JPEG, and that is a light halo around the lady's head. Now, next time you're walking in a bright sunlight area, look at your own shadow and see whether you are getting this effect. It's a real effect. It's not an artifact. It really does exist. And so that's well done, Suzanne. I like that. Suzanne number 2, I love the composition of this, really good. Letterbox composition, Suzanne has cropped it down. She hasn't cropped the sea out entirely, which is great because it sets the people into context. The sun is very low indeed, great. I love photography when the sun is low, giving us these great exaggerated shadows on the sand. Love it. Really good. I love the composition. Tonal range, it seems to be very slightly sepia, and I like that. Now, whether that's really straight from the camera or whether Suzanne has used some photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software, I don't mind. I don't know and I don't mind, but either way it worked, and it worked very well indeed. Now, the only thing that's irritating to me is that I've got to turn my computer upside down to read the writing in the sand, which we could well have done without. So getting back to that software, if you were to have access to a tool that would enable you to erase the writing in the sand, I think that would be better still. On the other hand, had you included the writing in the sand as part of the objective of this photo, and put the two runners over on the right hand side whilst retaining their long shadows, it would have been another brilliant photo. Very well done indeed. I like that. I like the cropping, I like the sepia, I like the exposure. That's great. Well done, Suzanne. You are coming on a treat. Well done. Suzanne 3. Very well taken. Very, very good. Oblique lighting on the subject, giving us a three-dimensionality to the lady's features, her coat, her anorak, and I like it a lot. However, where is the subject? I would suggest to you that the subject, the lady in question here, Iris, is slap in the middle of the frame. And we could do with at least half as much more frame on the left rather than having our subject slap in the middle. I like the image, I like the lighting, I like the three-dimensionality. And I keep coming back to three-dimensionality, whether it was Jeff's eggs or his coffee cup or Mo's stone wall. You see the way that the shadow has just come in obliquely and given us a real depth to this image. I like it a lot, but I would like more space on the left. Terry. Now here we have a photograph of a gentleman, again illuminated quite strongly from the right. And although I can't see a stroke around this photo, wouldn't it be good if there's at least half as much again on the right of just sheer darkness, so that this gentleman's back is on the third rather than jolly near the centre of the frame. It's very well seen and very well exposed. I like that a lot. That's a really powerful photo. Look at the jacket. Look at the wrinkles, the folds, the cloth of the jacket. Look at the way, ladies and gentlemen, the shadow is giving us a three-dimensionality to that jacket. Yep, that's really achieved the objective. Well done, Terry. I like it. Compositionally, I want a bit more space on the right. Some people might say a bit more space on the left. I don't mind. I don't care. I just want a bit more space. And I don't want the subject slap in the middle. But actually, that's a cracking good image. I'm just going to zoom in to see if I can see anything else that's noteworthy here. Yeah, I can actually see the weave on the fabric of his coat, although it's somewhat confused by the JPEG artifact, which is what you get when you either JPEG an image or you over sharpen an image. And I believe that perhaps in this case, Terry, you may have over sharpened it, and I'm seeing some hints of JPEGing artifacts and over sharpening them. But it's a cracking good image. I love the shadows. I love the way you've seen it, and I think you could improve on the composition is the word I'm groping for. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Well done, Terry. Terry 2. Well, here we are back in the church again, with the shadow of something or other falling on the end of the pew. Pew suitably placed on the left of the frame. I'm not sure what you want me to look at. I know we're looking at shadows, I know we're looking at light and shadows, but my eye is taken up to the crest at the end of the pew, and the light is giving me a shadow of a pillar which itself is cutting across that crest. So although that's perhaps not your intention, certainly that's what's happened, and I find it a bit distracting. Nonetheless, it's well exposed. We've got detail in the woodwork. We've got some detail in the shadow on the pew end. But as I say, my eye is drifting to the crest, and as such, I'm confused by it. But it's well taken, it's well exposed, and I like it as a photo. Thank you, Terry. Terry 3. Terry's off in the churchyard, and he's found a watering can suitably positioned in the frame, such that the watering can is falling between the out of focus, the soft focus of the two gravestones in the back. He's chosen an aperture. Now here we go, ladies and gentlemen, lesson number 2 again. Here we go. What aperture did Terry choose? Did he choose small number, big hole, or did he choose small hole, big number? Well, I know you know the answer, so would you have thought to have done what Terry has done? Of course you would. Further, what about the exposure? How much exposure did he need? He's retained all of the detail in the watering can. It's very easy to lose the detail by overexposing for the highlights. In this case, it's suitably blackened out, and we have just a hint of vignetting on the left and on the right, giving us a three-dimensionality to this image. I love the way the watering can has been positioned so as to cast a shadow on the grass. And if I just chop off about half of the right-hand headstone, it places the watering can slightly further off from the central position, and it improves that no end. I like that. I like the tone of it. The blackness of the background is, I would call it Bromesco. It's a soft black, and Bromesco is a paper that we used to use in the olden days, and it gives us a very warm, soft black, and I like that. It's most appropriate. Very good indeed. Well done, Terry.
Hi, this is Mo. The next few images were submitted after David had done his critique, so he has written out critiques which I'm going to narrate for him here. The first is Brenda 1. A well-seen conceptual image encompassing the spirit of the shadow, giving three-dimensionality to the beach scene. It might be best with the tree trunk on the extreme left to avoid it dividing the image space into two. Well exposed and stroked. Brenda 2. Great image, lots of dynamism and colour. Would have been even better in early morning when the shadows would be long. I love the sky. Well arranged. I particularly like the double stroke. Brenda 3. Beautifully exposed and well seen shadows providing leading lines into the distance. However, leading lines should lead the eye to something, and there isn't anything there. Would be improved with a person or an object there. The next one is Janet 1. Well-conceived idea of contrasting light with shadow. Very thought-provoking. Good backdrop and well-positioned object of focus. Janet 2. Great concept of the shadows, giving the viewer the chance to interpret them as different things. Flowers, dolphins, smoke. Well positioned in the frame. Beautifully soft. Janet 3. Interesting shadow shapes, with swirling sea of the smoking backdrop adding to the whole image. Imaginatively presented, well positioned, and full of storytelling potential. I love the sepia glow effect.
Well done, everyone. I think you took the bull by the horns. That was not an easy challenge, but there again, nothing that's easy is worth doing. So, have I already told you next week's challenge? Well, I have, actually. It's been in the discussion, the critique of these images. I am sure by now you know what it is. So I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, and I wonder who's going to get the chocolates. We shall see. Well done, folks.